I am NetMoverSitan. And last we checked, the damned dozen took down the Ting Tang Gang's boss and stole his and those around him's clothes. And then they entered the casino. The inside of the casino could be described as busy, with excessively cheery sounds blaring from the slot machines, and lights so bright that initially the damned dozen had to cover their eyes, all for the purpose of milking as much money from the patrons of the casino as possible. The security guards were fooled by their Ting Tang Gang disguises and gave them a customary nod. Sald and Effie accompanied Rodia to the casino's cage. Their famed expertise enabled them to pass themselves off as full-time employees. Don Quixote was amazed by the sorcery of the dazzling contraptions that were the slot machines. Gregor cautioned her not to go saucer-eyed like a child at everything. It would attract the wrong kind of attention. Ishmael saw the guests of the casinos looking dead inside, and made the Ting Tang Gang smell fresh by comparison, asking if they washed. Gregor advised her not to hold her nose right before them. Apparently, Ishmael was used to it, having picked up something similar from deckhands on the boat she used to live in. Fortunately, they couldn't care less about how they were seen, as their gambling addiction was that overpowering. It even attracted Don Quixote, who was mesmerized by the slot machine spinning, asking what she needed to do to hear the jolly bells. Dante hadn't been to a casino, at least to the best of their knowledge, so they wouldn't know. Sadly, the flashy symbols and spinning numbers slowly eroded Dante's resolve to act the part of a stern manager. And then they decided to enable her, doing as she said. And then when she told them to press the button, they had no initial intention to do so. They even intended to stop her from touching that. But they found themselves pressing the button. In fact, someone had even left a token in it for one game. The reels were spinning. And then, as this was happening, Sald talked about hoping that Dante handled the wish stickers with care. Effie said that it was the only favour that they asked of them. They'd better be doing a good job. Rodia told them that they could count on Dante, as they're one of the few sensible pals who gets what's up. Salt mentioned that with so many sheets on Dante, they could win any game with ease. They just needed to not draw attention. Then Dante hit the jackpots. Well, even they have their bad days. Regardless, it all started to go terribly wrong again, as this attracted maximum attention to them. The slot machine spat out waves of casino chips, much to the excitement of Don Quixote. Dante couldn't contain the shame they felt for wasting the wish power stickers. They wanted to do something right, and due to a lapse in their standards, they failed miserably on this occasion. The worst attention was from security, who wanted to check their IDs. Heathcliff was irritated by this hostility, asking if it was a crime to win big at a casino. Then Faust went on to explain that chance there doesn't work like it usually does, as luck can be accumulated for a big payoff or trickle in small amounts to break even. But winning the jackpot on your first try should be a literal impossibility. Well, to put it into perspective, the odds of winning jackpot can be 100 million to 1. Well, it can vary between slot machines. Well, types of. So, the odds of winning the jackpot on the first try are even worse. And while the chips raining down fueled Don Quixote's excitement, Ishmael made her point, or rather her disappointment, clear. That Dante should at least have some responsibility, yet they gave in to Don Quixote's idea. She expected them to show their capacity, or even their capability, and clear the disgrace of failure from them. Yes, those scathing whispers were something to marvel at, and Gregor muttered in awe at this, as he felt her piercing gaze, only surpassed by Virgilius. Dante couldn't meet the glare in her eyes, and they were thankful for this. Gregor noted that this wasn't their only problem, that Ryushu was out of her disguise, asking how long she was out of it. She stated that she didn't wear others' discarded clothing. Gregor stated to Dante that this wasn't their day, and Dante agreed with him that they were screwed. Effie was frustrated by Dante's efforts. The plan put into motion being ruined. Asking Faust, what was she thinking? Volunteering to bringing those fools along for her missions. She's supposed to have near unparalleled brilliance. She should use it. Well, she might have that. The same can't be said for most of the others. She realized something after working with them for less than a month. She believed in uncertainty. Basically, when the plan involved embracing chaos, all variables become constants. This was her plan. Iffy was confused. Ishmael gave up trying to make sense of it. Then Dante ordered the damn dozen to start kicking, specifically the casino security, where it was time to kill and be killed. Thank you, Flowey. After fighting a few of the J-Corp security, Ryushu got bored, not being able to stand that charade, angry at wasting time fighting the small fries. And this annoyed Ishmael, who said that it's often the case that the grumbling people don't have a clear solution to contribute. And this made Ryushu do something that they didn't expect. Art. Asking the potaster, Yi-sang, to give her his knife. He told her to forever take it from his hands. It would be better off parting ways to wander about the air for however long. Interesting choice of words. Perhaps this will be explained when we eventually get to his story. That knife clearly has a dark history. Much like him, as he knew Gubo. She thanked him. Then she held the dagger and threw it into the air, striking the anchorage on the ceiling holding the chandelier, which made it sway. It's implied that she's not as strong as she used to be, but she was still able to do what she did there. She sliced through the steel. I mean, she treats Dante's words with less respect than she would a wad of gum. According to Dante. Nah, that's overestimating the value that she sees their words at. I mean, she actually treats them with less respect than Nada from They Live, and by extension Duke Nukem would do a wad of gum. Due to their desire to kick. Regardless, that wasn't the problem. The chandelier was swinging until, as Yi Sang would put it, lost in a haze, it succumbs. This surprised the J-Corp security as the chandelier crashed down. None of them but Ryosho knew what to make of this. Dante asked what that was for. Ryosho simply said, a performance. Gregor believed that she just made that up. Sinclair was glad that none of them was hurt because of that. Ishmael would dispute that as they still had angry security to deal with. And dealt with them. They would. After that last fight, Sard wanted to make sure that they knew that their goal was to win the game held on the top floor, not reduce the ground floor to rubble. Dante decided that it wasn't worth telling them that some either didn't know or didn't care as, well, Sard and Effie wouldn't be able to understand them even if they wanted to tell them. Sard then went on to say that they needed wish power to make this happen. The last batch was used for preposterous reasons, such as using it to hit the jackpot in the slot machine. She didn't review that in detail, as it would hurt morale. And this stung with Dante. Then Ortiz asked them where the most wish power was in that place. And then Sard told her that it was the roulette wheel next to the entrance. People try their luck there, where it took or yielded wish power depending on the outcome. Ortiz decided to seek out that container attached to it. Dante asked if she could pull it off. Apparently, Ortiz has carried out much larger scale operations. I mean, not even their preposterous blunder amounted to anything in the grander scheme of things. She blamed the dredges that clouded their judgment, and not to let their words deter them. Yeah. Unfortunately, while they were discussing backup plans, Heathcliff had his own ideas. And Dante realized too late what he was intending. He was tired of them chatting and wanted to move up, shouting at security, asking if they're ashamed of themselves, calling Sinclair the unfledged blondie rookie, Dante having a case of lost memories and couldn't wield a weapon to save themselves, seeing it as a joke that they're struggling against them. Ooh, this was a burn for the security chief, and Sinclair thought that was uncalled for. Dante agreed. Then Heathcliff told them that the club needed a better owner, and this continued to anger the security chief, who swung the club at him. But Heathcliff got out of the way, and much to Sal's horror, it struck the wish container, leaking wish power. She let out an agonizing scream, likely thinking, I'm this close to losing it, completely. Distorting would be a mercy compared to hanging around these incompetents! But Dante could almost hear the unfulfilled dreams of the lost wishes. But this was a surprising turn of events. This was Heathcliff actually having a plan. He told security that they can either admit to their boss that they broke the wish container while fighting them, and get a tsunami of verbal abuse, if not get dismissed, or they can make it the faults of the damned dozen and let them through. Considering that they just wasted a month of wish power, they wisely decided to let them go, but not without warning them that it won't be any safer for them upstairs. Seriously, safety was not a concern for them anyway. Certainly not for Heathcliff. But he thanked them for the warning. Although that club did graze him and it dislocated his shoulder, telling Dante to heal him. Dante did not want to argue. Saul then decided not to try and discuss plans or anything similar with them. And Faust said to them, to both Sald and Effie, "Took you long enough to realise?" Well, something along those lines. And Effie said that this was one of the times where it would have been better if she kept her mouth shut. They walked up to the next floor after that. On the second floor of the casino, Faust noted that there was a different atmosphere. Another syndicate had taken hold of that floor. Yeah, organised crime running a casino? That honestly doesn't surprise me at all. Then, one of the thugs revealed themselves. They were the mariachis! Mariachis in our world being folk music performers of Mexican origin, where they used a variety of instruments and take it in turns to provide backup vocals. A mix of indigenous music with European instruments. And this thug was not approving of the doom and gloom on Ryoshu, one of their rules being no sour looks. And Ryoshu threatened to sink on him. The mariachi he had to ask what that meant. Apparently it meant snap his neck completely. Strange, I would have thought it meant slice your nads clean, but that'd be too brutal, wouldn't it? Dante did not like her picking fights, and then that thug saw Dante's face as even more problematic, asking which hand is their eyes. Dante then basically said, "Let them have it, Ryoshu." After fighting some of the mariachi, they noticed a frustrated gambler losing big. Then a mariachi timed them out, believing that they needed reminding of their rule. The patron not caring as they just lost everything. Now, you see, this is why the best way to win at gambling is not to gamble at all. The mariachi threatened to throw a panada party out of them. Gregor quietly asked what that was. Dante quietly replied that they didn't want to know. That's probably for the best, as the context of that is likely to involve the patron being the panada to be pummeled to death. Then the patron rose off their seats, took the maracas that the staff offered them, and then they danced, sobbing all the time they did that. Heathcliff was confused by this. One of the superior mariachi told them that there's a rule that every visitor to that floor must follow. Una tradition, mariachi! Gambling is entertainment, done purely for fun. Sadness and pain were sublimed into dance. Don Quixote wanted to demonstrate. Sadly, the mariachi were not impressed. Her movement was considered insincere, which angered the mad blonde person. as dance was a window to the heart. Hers was not clear and pure, so all meaning was lost. Don Quixote disagreed with their assessment. Now you know how those that participate in that contradiction in terms that our talent show feels when they get rejected by the judges. Effie felt that this was getting further out of hand, and Solve was writing their letter of apology in advance. Well, what comes around goes around. Get used to it, you two. Well, what do you expect? You belittled them? You insulted them right within their range of hearing? I mean, it was only a matter of time before that bad karma caught up with you. Although in your cases, it caught up with you much sooner than you were expecting. If you were expecting that at all. After beating the out of more of the mariachi, Ishmael had an idea. An absurd one, at least to her, but it's one that she'd at least want to try if they wanted to leave that floor sooner. Well, to do that, they'd need to touch the hearts of the mariachi with a powerful dance. Dante basically said that they were out, as their memories were hazy, so dance wasn't familiar. So they got out of it, even if it was an excuse. Honglu knew Bian Bian, but unfortunately he lacked the masks, fans, makeup, and then he was stopped as they got the idea. It would require what they didn't have. Heathcliff's experience at dancing was attacking aristocrats at ball. How the are you still alive? I'm amazed that you didn't have either an army of thugs or a fixer office sent to kill you. Well, he's out regardless. Yi Sang's inner voice expressed fear, so he was out as well. Ishmael spent half of her life on a ship, so dance wasn't one of the things she learned. Don Quixote's words were as unimpressive as her previous efforts at dancing, so she was out. Ryusho only knew of the sword dance, making a literal killing on the dance floor. No, for some reason, dance fighting isn't going to work for this. Otis only knew the beats of morning exercises during roll call. But she was willing to dance if Dante demanded it. I don't think so. Roger felt embarrassed to dance, even though she's good at most things. Apparently, dancing might not be one of them, or if it was, it'd be too embarrassing to do so. Gregor considered it dangerous for him, as if he lost control of his emotions, his biomimetic arm might attack the audience. Milsalt was silent, basically expressing to Dante the message, "Go yourself, I ain't dancing." Faust danced for leisure, willing to perform a routine if required to do so, but unstable and unpolished is one thing that she's not good at. Only technical perfection. Yes, that's not going to work here. Then Rodia looked at Sinclair. This made him nervous. She asked if he could bust a move. Apparently, he took basic maracas course as a liberal arts class. Dante observed that he came from a rich family as well, asking how Roger figured it out. She noticed that based on how he walked and talked, much like it does with uncultured ones like Heathcliff. She then surprised Sinclair by wrapping her arms around his shoulders. practically forcing him into an important task. Sinclair was struggling to get out of there, worried about what she had planned. Then he solemnly walked onto the stage, with Rodier's encouragement, Ishmael reminding him of all the times when Heathcliff trampled over him. Sinclair was asking if he was really going to do this. Rodier said, "Wrong question. It was only something that you could do." Yeah, you took the classes. And when he danced, he impressed most of the audience with his performance. The wrist rocking, the pensive expression, restrained rhythm, seeing it as perfection. You know what this reminds me of? That scene from The Mask with Jim Carrey. Just search Cuban Pete and you'll get an idea of what Sinclair was doing. Although Sinclair's was scaled down quite a bit, as he didn't have a mask that granted reality warping powers and mental manipulation power. His was more calm, with a stillness that stirred the mariachi heart, channeling something within, sublime repressed darkness in inner turmoil. Shone with the body's motion, embers lingering in growing ash, heating the rhythm. Gestures struck along, an image of a bonfire burning throughout the night, witnessing the creation of ash dancing atop its remnant. Yeah, not sure about that last part. Yeah, sometimes I butcher the pronunciation of English, never mind other languages. Well, this confused Dante, and then the mariachi offered him to join them, as his potential was big. Sword stopped this as he was with Limbus Company. It'd be a serious crime to siphon talent from current employment. A few hours ago, he was one of the classmates in a class studying moronics. But he was now the most valuable asset at this point. This was at least enough to get the damned dozen to the next floor, as the mariachi allowed them to pass. Although they warned them that the syndicate on the next floor was less reasonable. Festivity not being in their dictionary. Sinclair was invigorated by this turn of events, feeling more comfortable with expressing himself. Dante wanted to know what he was keeping inside, but it was likely something painful. It could wait. The third floor was ahead of them. On the third floor, they encountered the Taikyu crew. Taikyu meaning iron ball in Chinese. These ones were going to be just as blunt and hard-hitting, as they made an effort to intimidate the damned dozen, threatening to make the most acrobatic poses known to man out of them, then lop off their digits joint by joint and make Purdy Mahjong tiles out of them. Seriously, are they FUM affiliated? No. FUM affiliates would only do that if there was a breach of protocol. Ishmael considered this a warm welcome. I use that term loosely. Heathcliff saw this as a provocation for a fight, which he gladly accepted. After taking down some of them, one of them advised them to keep their noggins safe and sound, because for kick the can, they might need something around. Effie then remembered that they were known for their coarse language. Apparently they took down dozens of rival syndicate members with just the psychological damage inflicted by their tongues. Deadpool could learn a thing or two from them. Regardless, Heathcliff was all too vulnerable to this, especially as one of the Taikyu crew told them to stop gazing, their big bulging doggy eyes being unnerving. Another of them spoke of one of them having an empty head when having a crack at one of their eggs. Then the first one replied that they don't even have a string of egg noodle for brains, asking what the round thing on their shoulders is, a bag of gas? Heathcliff was building in fury. Gregor asked if they took the same class in foolery. Roger found this amusing, although she was a little embarrassed when the others looked at her. Then Heathcliff exploded with rage, saying, "Dead! You're all bloody dead!" and proceeded to show them that it's unwise to him off. After the Taiku crew, well, the latest group of them were beaten, Dante realized that they wouldn't get anywhere by fighting alone. This amused Ishmael, who noted their trump card, and Dante wanted to know what that was. Ishmael pointed out that someone was there to teach them something legit, and that was Ryushu, who proceeded to give a colourful account, so coarse that parts of her voice were bleeped out and the speech bubbles were pixelated. Something involving guano and making them suck her sword with the pointy end. Yeah, it was so coarse that Roger had to cover Sinclair's ears. And to be honest, I can't blame her, as the less we know about Ryushu's up expression, not to mention description of her idea of a good night out, I assume, the better. Yes, her tongue gave a detailed account of something so sickeningly gruesome, she was popular with the thugs, some even taking notes. She impressed them. Heathcliff considered her to have the gob of a witch. Well, you clearly not heard of Baronessa then. Yeah, this was coarse even by his standards. Yi Sang applauded her creativity. Her tongue was mightier than the sword. And it was coarser than even those Ishmael was sailing with, when she was living on a boat. Sword couldn't comprehend why the higher-ups would organize a team of people like them. Well, I suspect it's because they needed those with strong emotions. Those that had one bad day too many, in order to resonate with the Golden Bars. Faust replied that the lineup wasn't meant to be understood by the likes of them, and Sard still found it difficult to figure out the meaning of that personnel measure, but it wasn't so bad after all. And Faust noted that she finally accepted this. Once they arrived at the top floor, Dante was concerned by the fact that they don't have enough wish power. Then Roger revealed something to them. She apparently stole some wish power back at the pawn shop. Just enough for their purposes, showing them a wish sticker with a few labels on it. Sod asked why didn't say this earlier. Roger then said that gambling is all about keeping a poker face, not wanting them to slip and complicate things. She then basically told Dante to sit this one out and she'll be better suited for what's coming next. They agreed to that, seeing as they suck at being the boss at the best of times. Sod would have been vehemently against that hours ago. Now, she silently communicated to them, "What the hell?" Roger basically told them, "Wise decision. Besides, when money is concerned, she's never lost it." She then made an entrance in the private room, only for that to be wasted by her not being the last there. Then a sombrero-clad woman asked who she was. Rodion introduced herself and told her that she was there to gamble for the right to access the basement. The boss of the mariachi found that amusing. Apparently, she was expecting the infamous Wish Power Whisker. That was the boss of the Ting Tang gang. Thinking that she was a little too confident. Rodia thinking that this was a dull take, as who you are doesn't matter, it's who wins that does. The mariachi admitted that she wasn't wrong about that, as she's qualified by the fact that she got there. She introduced herself as Aida. Then the boss of the Taikyu crew walked in with a dragon-painted full-body cybernetic replacement. His back was apparently hurting, and it looked like the same model as the Sephiroth had in the Botany Corporation. Roger recognized it as a prosthetic, and he asked if she's never seen that before, but Roger had, and described it as an old model, which looked like it belonged in a museum. So at least 17 years old, as that kind of model was seen in the Botany Corporation. He apparently patched it up a few times, believing it to be sturdier than most new ones. As for the boy being sluggish about coming there, thinking that brat to be arrogant to think that he could show up late to serious business, well, Radia didn't have anything to say about that, as she tried to do that herself. Then he walks in, telling them that it was an urgent matter. Now this was someone that Roger was quite familiar with. It was Sonia, the leader of the Uradivi. Aida mocked him, specifically that he thought that the world revolved around him, craving attention so much that he walked in late to be showered with glares. He apparently didn't intend for that, seeing Aida as a better fit for the protagonist of life. Then he noticed Roger, saying that it'd been quite a while, hadn't it? Aida was surprised that they knew each other. Sonia answered by saying that they shared a hometown. Roger asked if he was still the leader of the Urodivi. He didn't know if "still" was the right word, as she left on her own without warning. Aida interrupted them. Less chatting, more gambling. Then she went over the rules. The four bidders for the casino are Sonia, Aida, the Taikyu, and representing the Ting Tang Gang's boss as suspicious that yet shameless stand-in. Are you sure you haven't met her before, Aida? Anyway, no cheats or sleights of hand are allowed. Any that are caught are out, and that includes wish power. The Taikyu boss threatened to put any that are caught on the chopping block. 3 games in a row will be played, the one with the most chips wins. The winner takes the elevator to the underground portion, where the golden bar lies, a treasure that the previous owner was desperate to claim, digging a whole tunnel underneath it. He died suddenly for unknown reasons, making them the lucky bidders. Roger read between the lines, believing that he died. Well, whatever gender the previous owner was, died under suspicious, or indeed shady, circumstances. Sonia was amused by how cynical she was. Roger told him to shut it, asking how they knew about the golden bar, not thinking that it would be widely known. Apparently the stories of it were spread around the syndicates, where it would bring riches and fame to the owner. Raja then noted that Sonia gained an interest for worldly luxuries, calling him out on his hypocrisy, as he warned her to stay away from that. He saw no hypocrisy, as he intended to use it to achieve great things. His purpose remained the same, to destroy the system of oppression and exploitation, preventing the concentration of wealth. Holy! He really is a communist in all but name! Well, clearly he's not considered a threat to the head, as that kind of thinking would be wrong by their standards. If he was a serious threat to their rule, they'd either send an arbiter to give him a slow death, or a claw to give him a brutal death. Now, this is something that stands out with his syndicate among the others, as he sees the city and its rulers for what it is: a system of oppression. He's also not afraid to state what everyone can see right in front of them, but refuses to acknowledge. Well, what most refuse to acknowledge anyway. The Taikoo boss was bored by these grand words. Sonia apologized, as it reminded him of the old times. He found it funny that she had an obsession with gambling and money, as he tried to keep her away from that, yet they were at the same table, gambling with a specific goal in hand, asking what her goal was. Roger simply stated, to win. Now this didn't surprise Sonia, as they started the game. We then skipped the final round, Aida asking if they were keeping a good eye on their chips. Roger was all in, which surprised Aida. Sonia asked if she's dealt a nice hand. The Taikoo boss' suspicion was aroused. He didn't like it, asking what she was counting on. It was because she bet everything that she had at the end. Then she slapped her arm. This caused the Taikoo boss to grab her arm, demanding that she pull up her sleeve. Roger was surprised. His suspicion was that she put on a wish sticker on her arm that she got from the Tintang gang boss, all to rake in all the chips to get to the golden bar and keep it all to herself, believing that she had one underneath her hand. Roger called him out, asking if he had any proof. Sonia asked her to show her wrist. The Taikoo boss told him not to touch her, as he might be in on what she's apparently doing. He wants to reveal that, expecting Roger to cheat. Aida remembered a similar situation, even the dialogue involving him. Roger saw this as small-minded for someone so big. Does he have to be so petty about that? He responded by asking if she wasn't taught that with stolen wish power comes strict responsibility. Honestly, does she look like she wears a skin-tight outfit swinging around the city? Roger even thinks that he's watched too many movies. She then offered to put that to the test, where if she reveals nothing rather, she'll expect him to fold and walk out. He's willing to bet everything to find wish power on her. She's willing to do the same. The words according to the Taikoo boss, were final. Aida wanted to see how this ended. The Taikoo boss was excited to see what was on her wrist. Then that excitement dropped, as he only found nothing. Even though he saw her put that on, Sonia noted that meant he was out, Roger then asked what happened to the loser. Remove a hand? Sonia saw this as pointless with his body. The Tycoon boss was scared out of his metal body. Sonia then said that the defeated would be shown generosity, but false accusations need to be taken care of with more caution. Before Aida could react, the Tycoon leader was squished. Honestly, it's the male Tipperef all over again. This surprised Roger. Aida said, "For wing's sake, could you please give me a warning? Just a little one?" Disgusted by the grease and spinal fluid that was leaking out of the crushed body, Sonia reminded Roger of the trash compactor at the waste disposal in their backstreets. Reminded her of what they said, that the proletarians should unite to take down the ruling class and build a new society. And she replied then, "If you mean that we should round up the rich and flatten them under one of those compactors, then I'm all for it." She corrected him by saying that she said, "Crush and pop 'em." Sonia then asked if she was still unwilling to return to the Eredivisie. She was unsure of that. Meanwhile, outside of the private room, Gregor heard a loud slam. Sald correctly guessed that it was a quarrel about wish power. Heathcliff was worried that they found out and demanded Dante turn back the clock. She told him to stop pushing. And sadly, the door was traditional Japanese in style, flimsy wood covered with rice paper. They tumbled into the room as the door fell. I don't know what Virgilius will make of this, but as long as they get the golden bowl, I don't think he'll give a too much. Aida asking what Dante was supposed to be, and Dante asked Roger how it went, knowing that the syndicate bosses wouldn't be able to understand them. Sonia asked if Roger had made new friends in the meantime. Then he put his cards open on the table, telling them that the game was over. Rodian won. He didn't object to the outcome, and he walked out of the room. Then there was Aida of the mariachi, who hollowly collapsed at this. Caramba! She'd enjoyed this spectacle. But she's not going to do the same as Sonia, since Roger brought friends, she'll bring some of her crew. Gregor then reminded her that gambling was purely entertainment for her and her syndicates. She saw it as more entertaining than accepting defeat right away to fight them for the access to the elevator. And Roger understood that she'd have done this regardless of who won. Aida said that she had strength and manpower, so why give up on the golden bar over a few rounds of a card game? This suited Roger fine. She was bored of sitting around too. Then they danced. And once the damned dozen proved themselves to be the superior dancers, they called the elevator and entered it, while avoiding stepping on the brain matter of the Tycoon boss, Sinclair resisting the urge to vomit. I know, definitely less dark than the first chapter, but I doubt this will get any easier from here. Until next time. Hail the rabbit!